when the heathens take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know.
Whoa, that is loud. As you know, at the beginning of the show, I have to mute the copyrighted music so the show doesn't get deleted on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. So just bear with us until Heathens is over, and then we'll be right with you guys. This is going to be a great show.
Quiet on the set. Can we please have quiet on the set?
All right, here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Far From Normal Radio Show with your hosts Jay Moss, Bud Vino, and Jesse Weiner.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Far From Normal Radio Show on the Future of Our Children's Radio Network. I am Jay Moss, and I am here joined once again by my tag team host here, Bud Vino. Bud, how are you doing this evening?
Yo, Jay Money Moss, October 24th, 2017, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're 1 week away from Halloween, Jay. 1 week, I'm scared, but in a good way. And we have an amazing show lined up. Jesse Weiner, we don't see, but we're about to hear. Jesse, good evening.
Hey, guys. Sometimes I think the week goes by faster and faster. Every week, it's great to be back again, and I'm looking forward to a great show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have two wonderful guests tonight, and we are absolutely honored and delighted to bring those two people to you. They're amazing inside and outside of the parental equality and children's rights community. To you this evening, you have the great honor and the privilege of being able to listen to two of the most amazing people. And the first one we're going to go ahead and introduce and get right into the interview here tonight. Our first guest would be no stranger to anyone out there. She has been a model, an actress. She's been on roles on TV such as Las Vegas, Wings, Nip Tuck, Judging Amy, Monk, Wings, you name it. She's been in it. She's also an author, a Goodwill ambassador, an aviatrix, which, by the way, is the female form of aviator, and now turned advocate for family rights. This is Miss Natasha Pavlovich. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. It's my honor to join all of you and to have this lovely platform to reach out to a lot of people. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. And also, I know my co-host here would love to thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Natasha, as I said in the pre-show, in the quote-unquote green room, humbled, honored. You're an amazing woman, amazing ambassador in many different areas. So thank you. I've been looking forward to this, as has Jessie Weiner, I know, as well. And we'll get to Jessie now because I'm sure she wants to say hello to you and thank you as well.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Jessie Weiner. Thank you so much for coming on. I was doing a little bit of background on you and kind of information, just to get an idea. It's great in this movement to see other women as far as advocacy and getting out there and spreading the word. So above all else, thank you for that, because for myself, this is an emotionally exhausting movement. I'm entrenched in so many different people's cases. It's nice and refreshing to see some other females out there in the game with me. So thank you for that.
Thank you all. It's just I feel that God put me in this position and gave me a voice, and I'm going to do my best to make a difference and advocate for families in this country.
Absolutely. And we're honored and delighted that you've taken this role on, because we don't see a whole lot of females that are kind of into these things. So Natasha, you've been a model and actress, seven different languages. And you're a very intelligent woman, obviously, but when you've seen some of the things that are part of this, as we call family rights or family or children's rights community, so to speak, and working with like Connie regularly out there with the Family Forward Project, what attracted you to get involved and take a stand for families?
Well, unfortunately, I was a victim as well. I never knew this problem existed and that it was nationwide and that it was so prevalent in today's society. I was a victim of the family court here in one of the richest counties in Tennessee, Williamson County. And I started as I had a hearing for a custody determination and for a parental plan to be established. And that's all I thought I was going in for. But I got a really unconstitutional judge, and who was very inappropriate. She's guilty of a lot of judicial misconduct. She was a bully and abused her power and authority. So I got through my case, and even though my final parenting plan was ultimately established over a year ago, I was very, very upset through all of the emotional, financial, and everything that the legal system does to drain everything out of you. And I could have walked away and just ended it there and just put it in the category of a really bad dream and that I survived it and I could move on. However, when I started some more research on this particular judge, and I'm going to tell her name, it's Judge Sharon Guffey. She is the only juvenile court judge in Williamson County, in Franklin here. So you have no other choice. So when I learned about how I was treated, and then I learned about other people that were treated worse in her courtroom, that really touched my heart, and it somehow motivated me when I heard these horrific stories, that I knew that I had to get involved and I had to stand up, and it was my duty. And you know, in Dante's Inferno, they say the hottest place in hell is reserved for those who in time of need do nothing. And I felt I'm a very, very courageous person. I don't have a problem public speaking. And I thought, well, God put me in this position because he knows I'm not afraid. I have courage, and I'm not afraid to speak up. So because of these other stories that I heard, and the pattern shown by this same judge of so many just horrific things that she has done to families and children, that I knew that I had to do something about it. So thank God I got in touch with Connie regularly. And then I just learned so much more through her Family Forward project, and how much more than I even imagined that the government is corrupt in taking children away from their parents, and without any cause really for not. Do you know that 85% of the removal of children is not due to abuse, but for neglect? So when I learned a lot about the mission statement of the Family Forward project and what Connie states, she's done numerous research, and she's just an awesome advocate for this whole system. And I learned that these agencies, from CASA to Guardian Ad Litem to judges to, I mean, you name it, whoever's involved in the system gets paid for every child going into foster care because of this Title IV funding that's federally funded. So I'm just appalled. And then when I joined the Family Forward project, and I saw so many people, mothers and fathers, just hurting and their children screaming to get back to their parents. And their relatives are trying to get custody of them, and the government not allowing them, and even killing babies for medical neglect, like killing them in the hospitals. And when I saw all the corruption, I said, I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to start with one judge, and then I'm going to move down and reform just the judicial disciplinary committee, and then I'm going to go further, and I can be a great example of bringing attention to one judge, because this one judge can hurt other people, and I'm going to focus all my attention on her. And when I'm done with that, then I'm going to go for the judicial disciplinary committee and reform them, because when you complain about a judge to your judicial disciplinary committees, which I have, what they say is, well, didn't you appeal? Why didn't you appeal? We can't do anything about it. We're not the law. And I told him, actually, it's the Tennessee Judicial Disciplinary Chairman is a former judge, or maybe a present judge, named Chris Kraft. So when I told him about this issue that I had with Judge Sharon Guffey, he said, well, you should have appealed, as though the case was closed. Like, he didn't even want to listen to me. And
Right.
I told him, do you know how many families don't have money to appeal? Like that's an like $20,000 to $60,000 for an appeal.
Absolutely.
And you might have a chance too. You might, but what he was saying at the legislature committee in Nashville, which I attended. They had a sunsetting meeting, which is they were having a meeting about trying to get rid of or do away with the Judicial Disciplinary Committee, and I was there speaking against it. I wanted it to go away, to reform, because judges judging other judges doesn't work. I mean, they're all buddies, and they think they're just much smarter than your average victim of court. And when I told him, look, people don't have money to appeal, is that the only way you're going to listen? He goes, well, we don't do the law. But as a matter of fact, he's wrong, because when a judge doesn't follow the law, then that's a form of misconduct. So instead of calling me up, contacting me, and giving me information to hear a statement from me, to at least take 15 minutes for me to present my case against Judge Guffey, he didn't do that. But somehow Judge Sharon Guffey heard that I was at the legislature talking about her and using her name. And then she went after and filed a complaint against Connie Regularly, saying in the letter that I was acting as her agent, quote unquote.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just evidence that she is definitely hiding something. I mean, and I'm sure that Judge Chris Kraft contacted her and said, hey, they were talking about you, because who else would have, She wasn't there. So anyway,
that's correct.
That's what I'm doing. I thought I'm going to start with one judge, and then hopefully it'll have the domino effect, and maybe God just put me in this position to do something. So here I am.
Well, Natasha Bonvino again, I applaud you. And Jay and I say a lot too, and we always say go with your heart. And when we do certain things, it's because we're compelled to do it. And you're not only very intelligent, but you're also a pragmatist. And you're a very self-confident woman, and I love to see that because I like to see warriors that I know are going to conquer. You're a great voice, a loud one, but a one that's intelligent and needs to be heard. Thank you. Amazing.
Well, thank you for that. But I'll tell you, I had a lot of confidence. I was very successful on my previous endeavors. However, going through this system, it tore me apart, and I have lost my confidence. I mean, it just eats away at the strongest people. If you have any energy and a good frame of mind and a great attitude, which I had all of that, it just pushed me down to the ground. Like I thought the weight of the world, like I couldn't get out of this hole. And somehow I managed to get out of it. And now that I'm out of it, I'm going to climb that mountain and shout.
Well, it's funny that you say those things, Natasha, and because Jay, if anyone, knows, it's just one day. I guess I call it sick and tired of being sick and tired, and just, and also since I've gotten to the level emotionally and everything else in terms of confidence and everything and knowledge, I feel it's my obligation, honestly, between myself and my personal time, that I want to try and help people get to that same level, because I feel like I have been gifted with the ability to do things like I'm doing. And if I didn't, and it didn't assist other people, not to try to sound self-aggrandizing, I'm not trying to do that. I'm saying I feel that I have to. It's a compulsion. It's a need to do that, because I can't stand, Natasha, when I see people that have been destroyed. Like you said, you said it perfectly, because it's all of us. As a matter of fact,
I could have walked away with my own problem and just, like I said, file it in the, this is over with category. but having heard other people's stories about this same judge and what she had done to their families, that's what motivated me. Their stories were far worse, and I said, "Oh no,
Yeah.
you know." So anyway, but
that's true.
It's funny because you applaud me for some of my achievements as an actress in television and Hollywood and everything, but when I was in Judge Sharon Guffey's courtroom, she actually rolled her eyes several times, 3 times, and looked at a person at the stand, and she leaned over and she rolled her eyes and she said, "You know she's an actress, right?"
Jay, Natasha, I'm sorry, Jay, real quickly, Jay, haven't we heard that before? We've had other people, and that's something I've heard before, where you think that it would help just show your professionalism and your ability to achieve certain things, and it's actually used against you. And you see that I don't know from who, Jay. We'll have to remember. I know we've heard that before.
Patricia Mee Thompson.
Was it Patty Thompson? It may have very well.
Thompson,
I think you're right about that. The same sort of thing was used.
Well, not only that was used, but she went further to write it down in my summary before she submitted my parenting plan. There was a summary attached to it of the hearings, and she wrote on it, quote unquote, she wrote, "Parents are actors whose testimonies seem scripted at best." Unquote.
Wow, that's funny.
That's such a convenient. That's a convenient out, isn't it, Jay?
Yeah. Aren't judges actors in court?
I accepted that as total discrimination against my occupation. I mean, what did she think? I was there pretending to be on an episode of Law and Order or something?
Well, you know what's funny to it? It made me think too, Your Honor. So-and-so is an auto mechanic. He has the ability to fix this car at any time and take the child. I think he's full of it. He's a mechanic. It doesn't even make any sense. The one doesn't have anything to do with the other. That's
exactly. She shouldn't have said it. She shouldn't have rolled her eyes, and she shouldn't have written it down. But that's just one example of, she had no business. It's called impropriety, and she underestimated me by huge amount. She thought I was some little actress. She thought I was some little actress and beauty queen from Hollywood, and that I would just, she could abuse me, and that ain't going to happen. Now she's going to hear back from me. It's like I'm angry and I'm just going to stand up. What is that movie? I'm angry and I can't take it anymore.
Right. I love it. And I say all the time, Jake, quickly, the best quote-unquote weapon you have is people underestimating you. It really is. It's the best thing in the world. That's how you hit them with that right cross when they don't even expect it and they're down. I love your attitude. It's right up my alley. Keep going.
Yeah, well, she grossly underestimated me. Grossly. Like, I'll tell you another thing that she ordered me in the parenting plan. She ordered me, quote unquote, this is in writing and assigned on my final parenting plan. It says, "Mother is not to speak Serbian to child in the presence of non-speakers, and mother is to assure that the child does not speak to mother in Serbian in the presence of non-speakers," unquote. Really? Wow. Seriously?
What you worried about? Yeah, exactly. What is that? I don't even.
Yeah.
Talk about intentions, bad intentions. Right. Yeah, I can't believe some people would have so even write that down is amazing.
Yeah, I know. She even wrote that down, and I'm thinking, okay, first of all, I should be patted on the back because I have taught my child how to speak the Serbian language since she was born. So I should be complimented for making her bilingual by the age of 5,
Natasha, you're to be penalized for making sure your child is more rounded than the average. You're to be penalized for that, I guess, huh?
Exactly. And you know what? What she has done is she unconstitutionally denied me and my daughter the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, And she also discriminated against my national origin, my language, and my culture. That's what she did with that one sentence. And it just shows her entire attitude towards me and my case. So that's another thing she did. And then the first day of hearing, when she didn't even hear about me, she didn't hear from me, she states at the end of the first day of hearing, she says, if you don't know how to parent your child, I'm going to put her in foster care and take her away from both of you. Really?
Wow.
Huh? Like, I was there for a custody and a parenting plan, and she's threatening my parental rights. There was no cause or reason for her to threaten my parental rights because there was no concern for any parent's abilities to parent.
Nor were you there for a fitness hearing of both parents either. And here's the thing, I got this from Melissa Martin. I'm going to thank her for that. But 42 U.S.C. 12203 states, protecting advocates against any and all retaliation, coercion, threats, and intimidation, specifically stating it shall be unlawful to coerce, intimidate, threaten, or interfere with any individual in an exercise or enjoyment of or on account of his or her having exercised or enjoyed. I want to go on here because it's very, very long. But basically, it's protecting your rights, and I want to point that one out to you, and I'll give that to you later. But obviously, that's one that you can bring up is to say, hey, look, and it's very long, so I won't read the whole thing, but 42 USC 12203. And I want to go on here a little bit as well, because I'm very familiar with the area that you live in. I've been there to Franklin, Tennessee. I know that Amy Grant lives there. I know that, Stephen Curtis Chapman, some of those people obviously live in that area, so I'm very familiar with it. We have heard a lot of, from other celebrities who've also gone through these family court situations, such as Lita Ford, Jason Patrick, Alec Baldwin, many others. Is there a hope, possibly, by you speaking out, that maybe we can get some more celebrities on board that would really, try and jumpstart this to get it in the public eye?
I know that all those celebrities, and especially the people in the country music business, live out here. They're probably right within, 5-mile radius of my house. But I don't know them personally, but I'm sure that we can contact them and ask them to participate in this kind of discussion and to bring awareness to their situation, because it seems like when people get together, we're so united and we have a much stronger and louder voice than when you're trying to do something individually. So, I hope that there's a chance of that, and I hope somebody else will speak up too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm actually interested in that U.S. code as well, because Natasha, I don't know if you've heard before, but my husband was actually last month by Judge Kimberly Campbell by Judge Laura Lee Weston in Pasco County, Florida, was threatened to have his time sharing withheld because of my advocacy and disparaging comments against her biased rulings in the family court system. She actually looked at my husband with quite disgust, shook his head, and said, if you want to keep posting, then I will take time sharing from him. So time's going on.
Yeah, retaliation.
I'm sorry?
Yes, retaliation, and just for no reason. You're getting punished as a parent for no reason. I think the reason is that they want to put your child in foster care so that they can get some funds. Follow the money. But another thing this judge did to me is after the very first day of hearing, exactly when she threatened my parental right, she also stated, after not hearing from me, mind you, heard nothing about my case from me, she states, one of the parents, and this is quote unquote, I've memorized it because it's been going through my head for over a year now. One of the parents has to move out. I don't care which one it is. Toss a coin if you have to. But one of you needs to move out. If you can't decide, then just call me and I'll decide. Period. Really?
Wow.
Now, I'm going to tell you a few things about that scenario. Number one, this judge does not have the right to jurisdiction to throw any parent out of their home. That's in another court. I'm just standing in front of her in juvenile court. The issues at hand are only child custody and child parental plan, nothing else. There's no other issue before her. So the second thing is she doesn't have the authority to make such a ruling, to vacate either person out, and to make such an order or demand. So what happens is neither of us wanted to move out of the house. Now, I got to add to the story that the house that I lived in was over 5,000 square feet with a mother-in-law suite, which had a full kitchen, full bathroom, and a living room and a bedroom with it. So it's like another apartment, right? So it's a huge house with separate entrances, and I own the house, and I paid for the house. I own the house, and I paid for it. So we didn't want to leave the house, neither the father nor I. So somehow the judge just filed an order, and I got it through an email. I was aware through an email that mother is to vacate her home immediately. Unquote, wow. And that's it. And it said also at the top of the page, it says, I'm going to read it to you because I think I have it. It says, like, this matter came to be heard before me on March 14th, 2016. Here it is. Before the Honorable Sharon Guffey, Judge of Juvenile Court of Williamson County, Tennessee, upon proof introduced in the entire record, the court finds that the parties and counsel cannot agree as to who should vacate the family residence, and two, Natasha Pavlovich, the mother, should vacate the family residence immediately. And she signed it. So I had like a few minutes to gather what little clothes that I could think of at the moment. You know, when you're in shock, you're not even thinking. And the next thing is I had to get clothes for my daughter. And the third thing is we have a dog too. And another thing is I have no family in Tennessee. So here I was, homeless. In a matter of 20 minutes, I was on the street homeless. I mean, I did not know what hit me, how it happened, and I couldn't even explain it. So what is important here is not only that the judge not have jurisdiction and the authority, but she also did not provide me with due process. So this order that was signed by her, which vacated me, it says this matter came to be heard on March 14th. It was not heard in front of her at all. And upon proof introduced in the entire record, what proof? There was no proof introduced. There was no hearing. There was no due process. She tossed a coin and decided to vacate me and make me, my daughter, and my dog homeless. And that's exactly what happened to me. For more than 3 months, I was homeless.
Natasha, I can absolutely sympathize with you 100% because I was in the same boat as you. I was given an order of protection based on mental cruelty, told that I had had to go to my home with the police, pick up only my clothes and my toiletry, and I was out of the house. As a result, maybe a year later, after trying to get into an apartment and still pay on the child support order, I became homeless as well, lived on a park bench for 2 years, so I understand exactly what you're talking about 100%.
Oh, thank you for understanding, and I'm sorry you went through that. I was horrified. I mean, I felt like, okay, I've accomplished a lot in my life. I was in the Miss Universe pageant. I was representing a whole country. I was educated from UCLA. Like, how did I end up homeless? Like, from this one judge. And
Natasha,
you know what?
we definitely. We can see, I'm sorry, it's but we can definitely feel it. I've been there too, where I'm an ex-police officer. They don't. It doesn't matter. I was in the same spot and going, wow, how did I get here? I'm educated, not even close to where you are, but been in a hotel room and even in my car, wondering how I was going to eat years ago and going, how did I get here from there? So thank you for giving us another voice. I apologize for interrupting you.
I even called up shelters and I said, look, the judge vacated me out of my house and I have a dog and a daughter and, she's 5 and I need help. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any money to stay at a hotel. I don't have any family. And you know what? They wouldn't take me because I was a homeowner. I didn't qualify to be at a shelter since I owned a home. And the fact that I said that a judge ordered me to vacate put in their mind, I must have deserved it, So it was not as difficult with me by myself, and there were days that I did not sleep in my car. But when I got my daughter, I had to take her from one church member's couch to another church member's, extra bedroom to a hotel, so she had no consideration for the inconsistency and the instability that it caused my daughter. She had no best interest for my daughter. And she did this illegally, and I'm not going to stop till somebody recognizes and she gets impeached, disbarred, and probably apologize to everybody who's Serbian and my daughter and the world, for all of her horrible abuse of the power that she contains, Anyway,
absolutely.
I haven't even told you half of it, but those are just some of the things that come to me immediately that is so wrong.
And I know that Kirk was bringing this up in Kirk's Law Corner, so I'm going to bring this up to you as well. When a judge steps out of their jurisdiction, you can use USC 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law, and in that very last sentence, it basically describes what is the penalty for that. And it is treason. And it says specifically, you may be sentenced to death. Now, if that doesn't start making judges start quaking their boots, I don't know what will. Because honestly, what we have in this country is we have, and I've talked about this several times, where we have African Americans who have fought for their rights and have gained it, hopefully. You've got the LGBT community who has fought for their rights and gained it, but we don't have equal rights for parents in this country. What is wrong with this? And it boils down to the fact of, yes, they're going after this Title IV money from the Social Security Act. It was never meant for that. That's not what this Social Security program was meant for. It was meant for the disabled and the elderly. It was never meant for that. So what ends up happening is we draw from that, and then we sit back and we go, where did all of the money go? Because we're running out of retirement from Social Security. What are we going to do? Well, this system can correct itself, and we found out that it can correct itself with one signature, one stroke of the pen, and it would only take Donald Trump signing an executive order ending Title IV. That's all it would take.
Well,
but
you know, Connie regularly has gone on a campaign of, I even volunteered to place her literature in envelopes and send it off. There's a lot of people volunteering the information, and we sent thousands of letters to Donald Trump from all over the country. So she has been trying to do that, but eventually we will get his attention, and I believe that it will happen if we just keep at it. If he knows about it, he will take care of it. I believe that strongly.
So and I think it's just making him aware. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bud.
I'm sorry, Jay. I said persistence is key, right, Jay? Persistence.
Yes, absolutely.
Consistent and persistent.
Yes, yeah, never. I actually was one of those as well with you, Natasha. I was stuffing envelopes and letters right along with you, helping out in that, because I thought it was such an important thing. Because if we can actually just get the ear of the president if I tell you this, if I had the ear of the president, he probably wouldn't want me to have his ear, because, it might get bitten off like Mike Tyson fight, because honestly, I would give him so much of an earful because of all of this stuff. I've seen so many people go through this. I've seen so many suicides because of this. We've got to take action. This is our time to take action, and it may never come. Hopefully it comes in our lifetime, but it may never come in our lifetime. But what this is all about is making sure that our children never have to go through this like we have.
Or anybody.
And I applaud you.
Well, thank you, but I feel that it could take place sooner. The stronger we are together and united, and the more we grab the media and the news and our voices, the faster it will come. So I do believe that this can be brought to the attention of President Trump, and I believe that it could be reformed. Just that people have to get together. So this is one step for us to be talking, to be on social media and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I met with a representative in my local area one day, and to discuss, equal time sharing legislation and passing it. And the one thing he said that will always stick out to me is, if you want something like that passed, you need to get the women vote. And it's amazing, one, that he would feel comfortable telling me that, and two, that's what we have to resort to in this world, that women have risen to such a high power that that's the only way we get things passed. And three, in this world where we as women, and I don't include myself in that, want equality. We don't want equality. We want convenient equality. So that was pretty awakening for me. But I am with you. I do believe that equal time sharing and the restoration of our parental rights will be passed individually in individual states upcoming at a faster rate than say 10, 15 years ago. I pray when our new governor comes in 2019, that's one of the first legislative changes that takes place. Illinois is on the brink. Kentucky just passed it. Missouri is on the way. Nebraska is not far behind. Alabama, with our great Melissa Isaacs, she's coming along too. So it's catching on. We just have to stay the path, stay the righteous path.
Yeah, and at that hearing I was at the Tennessee legislature, May Beavers was present, and she was an advocate for reform for the Judicial Disciplinary Committee. So I'm hoping that we have an ally in her, and I think she's running for governor, so I hope that will happen as well. So, we're going to have successive numbers
and allies.
Yeah, and I've just begun to draw attention to this. I've been organizing myself and my troops and I'm going to go big. I hope to make this incident with Sharon Guffey national and international awakening, and I'm going to ask all my fellow Serbians throughout the world to chime in and let her know what they think about her forbidding me to speak Serbian to my daughter and my daughter to me. I'm gonna ask their opinion, and I'm going to go use all the social media and all my previous contacts in the media, and I'm going to blow this thing up. This is just a pre-explosion.
Jay and Natasha and Jesse, first thing I was thinking is I wouldn't want to be in this lady's crosshairs. I'll tell you that. See her a good side. She seems relentless. I love it. That's what we need, Jay and Jesse. And Natasha, I applaud you because. And I've talked to many people privately, and I know Jay and Jesse have. I'm quite sure about this. And honestly, it's about being very vocal and in a smart way. And you got to be loud. Unfortunately, that's the way you have to be, because the system will try and cut you down and get you to a level where we've all been at. Unfortunately. So it takes things like this and people like you, Natasha, doing what you're doing to end this abuse overall. That's how you do it. You got to be loud and say no more.
Thank you, but you're gonna see what's coming. You just gotta keep in touch, and you'll see how it's going to unravel. It's not going to be pretty.
Well, we're definitely going to stay in touch, and I'm going to finish my shelter, so when the bomb does go off, I'll have some place to go. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm looking for her work acting as well. I would be afraid of her as well, too, you know.
Yeah, there's no lack of intelligence or intellectual fortitude, so to speak, there. No question.
No, you'll be hearing from me real soon, not too far off. You'll be seeing me. I want to make this case go viral, but I want to start a movement to show that if everybody does the same thing I'm doing, they could make a change. So she's going to be our little poster child face for the beginning of this movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're 100% behind you. Anything we can do to help you out, definitely we will.
Absolutely.
Now I know, you've worked with Connie. You even, like you said, stepped in as a surrogate for her with the Judicial Review Board there. Now, what are some of the? I'm just curious as to what the Judicial Review Board would have even stated at all, because obviously.
It was a meeting to decide whether that whole agency should be done away with or not. That's what the legislature was voting on. And I did not go as a surrogate for Connie or an agent. I went because I heard about it and I wanted to speak up. Now, prior to going to the legislative board, I did go to the Williamson County Commission and I spoke up against Judge Sharon Guffey and the injustices in front of all her peers and the people that hired her and in front of her. When I saw her walk in, it changed my entire, I don't get nervous on set of Hollywood, but when she sat down and walked in, I was like, oh gosh, now I got to talk in front of her. It made me a little nervous, but I did it and I have it on video. I'm going to be reposting that soon. So this wasn't the first time I went out and publicly spoke against her. So when I went to this Tennessee legislature, I went to just let them know that the Judicial Disciplinary Committee is ineffective, and they should do away with it, and they should go back to another form of filing complaints, because judges judging other judges is just ineffective. It doesn't work. They're biased, and it was so apparent to me just by the video that Chris Kraft, he thinks that when people complain about judges in family court, they're complaining about, or other courts, they're complaining about, hey, this judge looks at me real mean, or I didn't like what she gave me on the order. No, I don't like what I got I don't agree with my order, but it's well beyond that. It's about the conduct and illegal activities of this judge. So I know exactly what I'm trying to do. It's not about some people who are disgruntled and complaining about bologna sandwiches in, at the courthouse or something.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that we're talking about that. We're talking about if you disagree with a judge and you try and turn them into a judicial review board, which I've done in the past. I actually got the judge taken off of my case completely, and she can't even rule on any case. And it was blatantly due to the fact that there's been no due process of the law. They're not even hearing the complaint. They believe that they have jurisdiction just because you file paperwork. No, that does not give them jurisdiction. So honestly, it really comes down to the fact that we almost need to blow these courts completely out of the water and say, no more. Let's get back to common law. Let's go back to what makes sense.
And how about, when you go to court in family court, well, you go to criminal court, they said you have the right to remain silent, you have this right, you have that right. When you go into family court, the judge should tell you, you have a right to be a parent. You have parental rights. You have the right to rebuttal. You have this right. You have that right. They should also have a jury. Why should one chick who's sitting up there in a black robe pretend like she has a degree in psychology, child development, and life? Why? It should be a couple of judges or a jury to evaluate the best interest of the child, not one person who says toss a coin. Or
it should just be equal. That's it. It should just be equal. Even in the cases of these alleged domestic violence, cases and blah, 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 the majority of them are false. It should be equal. And especially when, you have situations of abuse when the children aren't even involved. If we started equal, we at least have a start. From this point on, parents are forced to prove themselves innocent of nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
From the start, right? It's adversarial from the start. They don't, as you said, Jesse, it should be an equal playing field. It shouldn't be instantly, okay, one's, quote unquote, better than the other. Let's see how we can totally discredit one and destroy them in every way possible and actually put the child much of the time with the more confrontational parent, the more parent that is the quote unquote troublemaker. And I believe, going back quickly, Natasha, to something you said about the belief, the gentleman, I believe, was under the belief that it was just kind of menial complaints and things like that. I'm under the belief they do know. And I think what they try and do, their first quote-unquote weapon, is to baffle you with BS and frustrate you to the point where you just go away.
Yeah, and have you ever seen have you ever seen a judicial complaint form? You can't just put down like a regular person all the stuff that happened to you. You have to look up the canon. You have to write down the number of what the judge was doing illegally. You have to take a English lit. You have to get a degree in English literature or law before you even submit the darn complaint. It's so. Like if you put, the judge, rolled her eyes and acted this way, that's insufficient. You have to write down, the judge was guilty of being biased against me because of this and this. I mean, it's an essay. And how many people in their emotional time where they don't even have a place to sleep can even think? I don't remember when I was going through all this, if what my name was or where I was. And I also wanted to say that Connie did not represent me in my case. I only was fortunate enough to meet Connie after my case with this issue. So Connie is representing me now, but she had nothing to do. Had I had Connie, I would have had things differently. You know, she would have stood up and said, "Wait a minute, you don't have any jurisdiction. You don't." But you know, my former attorneys, when I said, "What is it? What's wrong with you? I need a place to stay." You know, I almost wanted to say, "Are you going to have me stay at your house?" You know, because they weren't doing anything to help me, and I was in their office like every other day, going, "Guys, you know, you got to do something. I'm out of my house. I have no place to go. I'm going to get my child." And you know what my previous lawyer said to me? She said she'd never been in front of this judge before, and she said, "I don't want to step on her toes."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that before too.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to.
After the fact that my parenting plan was established, so after a month that it was solid and I filed an appeal, I actually went back to my house because it was not written in the final order that I have to stay out of my house forever. I mean, all previous orders are ineffective with the final order. So I waited for 30 days, and I went back to my house. So then the father files another petition with the same judge to evict me again. And in the court, which is a 15-minute proceeding, my then lawyer says, and she wrote it down, she says, "You know, you made this order, you didn't have authority, you didn't have jurisdiction, and you made it without due process." That's written in her response to the petition, and she stated that in court. Well, where were her, you know what, 3.5 months ago? Why didn't she say that prior? I'll tell you why. Right. Because she's going to be in front of that judge again, and she's part of the community. Right. So I didn't matter. If it would have been Connie, she would have stated that in court right then and there. So, and you know what this judge said that day in that 15-minute hearing? She said, I have this all on video and audio tape from the court, which I had a very hard time getting because the judge denied me this court video. I asked for it, and I asked for it 3 times, and she denied it to me. I have the denials. And the reason she denied it is because she didn't want me to expose her and to see what she had said on it. She states on it, she goes, "Well, it was my intention to write it in the final order." Can you imagine? It was her intention to keep me out of the house forever.
Yeah, it sure was.
And when my former attorney stated to her the laws, she told the opposing attorney, she said, "Well, you know, I think what you want to file is Rule 61." I think it's Rule 61, but she was telling the opposing counsel of what they should file so that she gets her way.
Wow.
I have this on audio videotape. I'm going to plaster it on the video so you guys can all view what I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah. Multiple.
Yeah, that's leading the opposing counsel, absolutely.
And Jay, you would think, quickly, before we go, I was going to say, you'd think that your former attorney or these attorneys out there, Jay and Natasha and Jesse, not only would feel not necessarily an ethical obligation, but a moral obligation maybe to let you stay with them, as you mentioned earlier, Natasha, since you're probably the one who put the addition on the house that they are sleeping in. Hey, at least let me sleep in the addition I paid for. And while you're doing nothing.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I know our time has kind of flown by, and, you know, excuse the aviatrix joke there, obviously. But our time has kind of run out for this evening, but we want to thank you absolutely for coming on. Is there anything you want to promote before we go?
I just, I'm going to make a stand coming up soon, and then I'll have you posted, if you can post it on your websites and pass it down, and let's make the domino effect happen and help Connie in the cause and help all the people that are suffering, all the families under whoever in the whole nation. That's what my goal is. So I'm just warming up. right now.
Just getting to what, and before I go to Jesse, I also want to thank you. I want to thank you too, Natasha. It has flown by. And I'll say, in terms of anything that you want to try and help push, I got to say, Ted Fogg, our own Ted Fogg here from Far From Normal, is amazing in terms of marketing and pushing things. So if you're not friends with him on Facebook, it would behoove you to do so. And thank you so much. And it's been amazing. I know, I'm sure for Jesse too, Jess.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure, and thank you guys for having me. Really, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
All right. So Natasha Pavlovich, definitely want to thank her for coming on there. Just amazing stuff. So I'm going to move right on here into the second hour of our program here. And this is No Sunshine by Overtime.
Wow. So that was amazing. Obviously, I have to stop the music to watch out for copyright issues. Let me just transfer this over. Sitting next to my buddy Steve. How are you, Steve? Steve will be on next, and I'm a little starstruck. I was going to maybe do some reverse karaoke for you guys, but I have the lyrics for the end of the show song. So next week. I can't wait to do that for you guys next week. Because it'll be lunarific. But I'm Natasha Pavlovich. I mean, I wouldn't have believed it. I had no idea that she was in contact with Connie regularly. That's fantastic, Connie. I guess, people, Hollywood folks can live anywhere. Tennessee, LA. Tennessee is a lot nicer than LA, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, if Natasha, if you want a show on social media, I'd be more than happy to broadcast it for you. Oh my goodness, I'm not worthy. Let's see, how's the Yep, the music is still going. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about Natasha Pavlovich? I'll look at the comments real quick. Thank you, thank you, Bud, for promoting the marches. Let's see, Stephen Krasner's the best weapon is knowledge versus arrogance. Certain folks in this area of law presume that if you aren't a member of the bar, you don't understand the nuances of the court arena and legal processes. That many times works in favor of the courts and lawyers, but it is also potentially their biggest blunder when they abuse the power of the bench. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Turn down. I can hear the music, but you guys can't. That is so incredibly true. They've taken this to a level and complicated it, like family law, for instance. We all know, I say this, was like a 10-page pamphlet before no-fault divorce was created. And when no-fault divorce was created, it created a niche because you went from an unconstitutional version of divorce to an unconstitutional process. And fixable with just a very simple contract back then, with a procedure that we used all the time already, just not in every case, and it's not a civil contract. I think they are back. The song sounds like it's coming to an end, so sorry about not having the reverse karaoke ready. Next week.
What you are going to hear or have heard
are our opinions only
and should not be taken as legal, medical, or any other advice.
This is for entertainment purposes only.
We are not responsible for what you do with these opinions.
Capiche?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that was our disclaimer here. I just want to make sure that I was back. My microphone, we are back on the Far From Normal radio show on the Future of Our Children's Radio Network, and we are actually broadcast live to Facebook by our good friend out there, Ted Fogg. The amazing stuff he's doing now with the March Us. Amazing stuff. We love him. Thank you. And Bud Bino. Bud, how are you doing?
Yo, Money Moss, J Money Moss. It is October 21st, 2017. We're at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What an amazing first half. And I'll say, Ted also broadcasts on YouTube and on Blog Talk. You can hear the songs on Blog Talk, as Jay mentioned, I believe, before. And he's mentioned before, copyright issues right now prevent us from doing that to Facebook and YouTube and other avenues. But we're going to get there. Awesome first half, going to be an awesome second half. Jesse Weiner, how are you?
I'm great. I have to tell you guys, I love that disclaimer. I think it's freaking hilarious.
I do too. I love it because, and if people don't know, in that disclaimer, that's Jay Moss, Money Moss, Jesse Weiner, Pete McNeil with that Brooklyn flair, which we love. Capiche, Brenda Johnson, and myself. And I tell you, and Ted Fogg put that together. That was something, if people don't know, it was just, it came together beautifully, and Ted did a great job putting that together. It was awesome. It does put a smile on my face, you Jess.
Absolutely. So we want to get right in. I'm going to go ahead and let Jesse go with our calendar of events, and we'll get to the birthdays real quick and then bring in our second guest.
We just lost Bud.
Okay, so I think a really big truck drove down my road today and tore down my internet wire because I have no internet wire, so I cannot access the calendar of events because I can't be on this phone and access internet because I can't do two things at one time. So I need somebody else to jump in.
That's all right. I'll get to the events. Not a problem. We'll roll with you. Okay,
I'm so sorry.
The events we've got. October the 26th, Dine to Donate for Dads Can Too. That's at 3 p.m. at Texas Roadhouse in Springfield, Illinois. See Jesse West Sr. for more details. October 30th at 8:30 a.m. Return of Baby Prosperous. It looks like actually Alexander Prosperous is putting together an event to go to the courthouse, which is October the 30th, Pinellas County Criminal, I believe it's Center. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to read, and that's actually in Clearwater, Florida. So, yeah. Yep,
it's Pinellas County Clerk of Court. I think it's courtroom 2B. I believe we've had baby Stefan's mom, Alexander Prosperous, I'm saying her name completely wrong, on about her story with CPS, CCF, whatever the heck they call themselves here, and her baby Stefan. They're getting ready to terminate parental rights on her, and she's just looking for some court watchers. I say this is my area. This is, where
I want to say quickly to the people out there, Jay, I believe we're not streamed. Oh, here we go. I think we're back up on Facebook and YouTube. I know there was a lag.
Oh, okay.
And I was getting an influx of private messages, people saying, I can't see anything, I can't.
Absolutely.
So hold on one second. Let me get my video feed.
Yeah.
There we go.
We'll run right through those events again because I didn't get very far anyways. Again, October the 26th, Dine to Donate for Dads Can Too at 3 p.m. at the Texas Roadhouse in Springfield, Illinois. See Jesse West for more details. October 30th, Return of Baby Prosperous. That is at the Pinellas County Criminal Justice Center, and that'll be October 30th. We'll go ahead and move on here to November the 5th, Share Parenting Event, 7 p.m. at the State House in Springfield, Illinois. $10 donation at the door of the Governor's Ballroom. There we go. and it looks like that event is being put on by Dads Can Too, Illinois Fathers for Equality, and Americans for Equal Share Parenting, and more. So be there. I believe it is a Sunday night. And then also Monday morning. So our good friend out there, Mark Ludwig, is going to be very busy. He's doing an event in Springfield, and then he's going back to St. Louis, having an event on November the 6th, the very next day. So St. Louis Shared Parenting Rally will be at the Holiday Inn at 7 p.m. in St. Louis on Route 66. I think isn't that song, Get Your Kicks on Route 66? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's hosted again by Americans for Equal Share Parenting. So Bud Vino, I'm going to go ahead and let you get some of the list here on the birthdays. Go ahead and roll with today, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I'll take on Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay, absolutely. First of all, just quickly, again, I apologize to the people out there that can't. I'm still getting Facebook feed issues and people can't see things. But I'm going to go down it anyway, just in case people can still hear us. So, yeah, I'd say there's no video feed. There's nothing up, Jay. So, but I'm going to go on with this, and I'm going to do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Why don't you go ahead and start for me, Jay, and I'll pick up on Tuesday, okay?
Sure. Well, today we've got Joanna Brewer, Linda Fabrico, Eric Brown, Don Rottweiler III, Andrea Croze, Seth Kemp, Eddie Machado, Wednesday, Felicia Gomez, Stephen Davis, Amos Rindler, Bob Kozak. Thursday, we've got Tom Munns and Joseph Mars, Shane Sherman. And Friday, we've got Laura Thompson, Lisa Brunel Kimball, Danny O'More, Stephen Lavoie, Jackie Joshua, Paul Dove, and Kevin Vaughn.
Sounds awesome, Jay. I'm going to be quite honest here. I'm looking for my birthday list.
Oh, okay.
Like
I'll keep going. There's not a problem. We'll roll with it. Saturday, we've got our good friend out there, Aaron Wimple, Dina Kolstra, Kathleen Russell, Aaron Peavy, Lisa Ferenz Michael, Wanda Champion, Misty Crawford Vernon Freeman, and Tammy Wade. Sunday, we've got our good friend out there, Jacob Follis, Joseph Cooper, Jimmy Coffin Jr., Nathan Feinberg, Ashley Mixon, Susan Sobolowski. Monday, I believe it's Lynn Kahn, Maria Brewer, Adam Kahn, Ira Ashburn, Jamie Draper, J.P. Velma, and Kathleen Wright. So happy birthday to all of you from the Far From Normal radio show. And
happy birthday. And Jay, great job. And I was trying my best in a quick way to get those. And I, for the life of me, I'll find it right when we go off the air within half a second. Jay did. I will say,
okay.
Jay did get those lists to us. So we're going to have to look into that and find out why I dropped the ball there. But awesome job, Jay. You get better every week, and you picked up right where you need to. Perfect.
Hey,
awesome.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Let's do this here. So we're going to go ahead and bring in our next guest, and we're absolutely thrilled and excited to invite our next guest on, Mr. Stephen Krasner. Stephen is a writer for the HuffPost and has worked diligently to bring awareness to the family courts with articles that are listed as a broken system, such as Contempt of Family Court, Wake of Family Law, Court of Parents, Gatekeeper, and Alienation, etc. So thank you, Steve, so much for coming on to the show this evening. I know my co-host would also like to welcome you.
Yeah, Mr. Krasner, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure and honor. Excited to hear what you have to say, sir. I read a lot of your work, so please, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. Jay, Jesse, and Bud. Listening to your show, I am quite impressed. I mean, you guys are definitely at the forefront discussing a lot of the issues and dilemmas that go on in these ordeals, as I call them. I thought Natasha was represented pretty much the indiscriminate nature of these types of cases. That it doesn't matter who you are, what end of the spectrum you're on economically or celebrity status-wise, that the same types of patterns, the same types of behaviors are just kind of across the spectrum here. So I commend you guys for bringing these issues to the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And some of the titles of the articles that you have obviously are very eye-catching, and they lay out it in kind of layman's terms, so it's easy for people to understand kind of the complexities of the court system. So what really are you looking for when you're making a piece like this that obviously you want to make sure that there's sound integrity behind what you're putting out, but also what is it that you're looking for maybe in some of these laws, maybe in some of these cases that really could catch the eye of somebody that's out there beyond this movement, so to speak?
Jay, Mr. Krasner, before you start, I apologize. I know Jesse Weiner. I feel very rude. I'll say hello to you.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have Jesse on a video feed, and we apologize. She's amazing. It's hard to keep track sometimes when you don't see someone all the time. So yes. I apologize, Jesse. We love you, and I know you want to welcome in Mr. Krasner as well.
Oh, no, I'm definitely psyched to have you on the show. I read probably everything that you publish, especially when you share it to the Florida Fathers' Rights Movement. I'm so excited every time I see something that you publish because it's so, it's the sound integrity of your writing, the advocacy for parental rights, the advocacy for a child's right for access to both children. The truth behind what's going on in our family court and the travesty of our system is truly exposed in your writing. And I just commend you for that and encourage you to continue on with that. And sometimes it's the only light in my day. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. You guys are being generous.
Well, quickly, I say this, and we all want to hear you, but I'll say, whenever I see something, I'll concur with Jesse, too, and certain people have gifts. You are a very sound writer, seemingly a little pedantic in a good way. I love that. There's nothing wrong with that either. You're very good in so many ways, and we all have gifts in writing and being able to express that and have people feel that and get excited that you express things sometimes in ways that they can't. It's a gift, and it's great. I'll go with Jesse as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Like I said, I think you guys are being a bit generous. But in answer to the question in terms of what I'm trying to do, I think from my perspective, when we all had our own experiences and ordeals that I think all of us have gone through to get to a point where you become active and you want to speak on these issues. And I remember, dealing with my own situation, going out there and researching. And by trade, I spent quite a long time as a paralegal, so I knew how to research a lot of the laws in the background, and I certainly knew the process of discovery and litigation. And it baffled my mind that there was nothing really out there that really got to the crux of the issue in an explainable way that Joe Smith off the street or, somebody who's a college professor or somebody who's, blue collar, white collar, doesn't matter, could truly kind of grasp some of the situations that play out in these courts. Because I think when people enter them, you're so bombarded with emotion and distracted by the chaos that's going on that you don't recognize the obvious that is sometimes playing out in front of you, especially if the players in the court system are not exactly 100% ethical in the way that they handle things. So that's kind of where I originally approached it from, is how do you tell the story of what's going on, break it down into parts, because we've all heard, I'm sure you folks have heard it as well from various victims of different scenarios in these courts, their stories. And sometimes their stories, it's a whirlwind to sit there and listen to them because there's so many moving parts. And I think in order to get people to understand it, you have to break down those parts and explain them one at a time. And that's more or less the approach I took in writing this stuff, is how do you explain what goes on in the hallways of the court? How do you explain, what goes on in this phase of a system, or when CPS calls and enacts this or that, or, and I think, to break it down in that way was what I was trying to set out to do.
Okay.
That answers hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously, you're trying to get the information out there to people. Now, what are some of the things? I mean, obviously, I see a lot of the stuff that you write. I've read a lot of the stuff that you write, and I'm kind of perplexed, to be quite honest, that I don't see a lot of your articles being picked up for some odd reason by some of these other papers. What do you think? Why do you think that may be? Do we have a system that's really trying to suppress this free speech that we all have, or what seems to be the conflict of interest to why they cannot pick up an article like yours? Should be on the front page of the New York Times, in my opinion.
Well, because I think you have a lot of things at play here. I think these stories, if you break it down to the numbers of how often these things transpire and how, they impact certain segments of society, and how many times, people out of emotion sometimes express these stories, and how that sounds maybe to someone who hasn't been through it, or someone who's, looking for a good hot headline in one of the bigger outlets. How do they convey that? How do they pick up a story here when there's 10 other similar stories all over the country? Now, I have, been heartened to see that, a lot of the local newspapers, and I, review quite a few of these headlines on a daily basis just to see what's being said. There's a lot of coverage about these issues, but it's done in case-by-case scenarios, in piecemeal. It's certainly, it focuses, I think, on the individual cases more or less than the entire thematic problems that are going on nationally. And I think, if I'm a press outlet and I'm reviewing this stuff, it's very hard to find the right narrative and find the right kind of, I don't want to use messaging, but way of communicating, well, hey, this, is not an individual situation. This is where we can tie this together as a much bigger story that encompasses a lot of these systems throughout the country. These are the similar patterns that go on. These are the similar sets of evidence to back up those patterns that go on. And I think, you have a mixed bag when you have people on these issues. You don't necessarily know, is this, truly a parent that has been wronged? Or is this a parent that there's legitimate reasons why they're in the situation they're in? And that gets a little, that gets a little murky after a while. So you have all these competing things going on. So I kind of get it in a sense that, where does one start when they go for a story like this? When they try to capture the narrative behind it, it's not easy. Where does a major network start with that? And that's why you often see maybe on some of the news magazine shows, you'll see them cover things like CPS scandals and, adoption scandals, foster care stories will pop up. But there's a hesitation, I think, just in general to really kind of go after those that are behind the bench. Really kind of call out some of the misbehavior, which is obvious to everybody in the industry. It's almost, if the substance wasn't so serious, it's almost laughable how overt some of it is. And it's not overt in the sense that you can't prove it. You can. A lot of this is captured in transcripts. A lot of this is captured in a lot of the files I have. It's mind-boggling, and it's obvious. And, the question becomes really is who's going to do something about it? Is the answer the White House? Is the answer the federal task force? Is it the FBI? I don't have an answer to that, because if I had an answer, I would have thought they would have done it already.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just a big thing to grasp. I don't think anybody is having a conspiracy to keep this out of the press. I don't really buy into that. There's no evidence of that. But I think it's just how do you present this in the right medium to the larger portion of the country.
Well,
So,
I think that you're right in one respect, yeah. And I think the other respect could possibly be that we go through this system and we see it so many times, and they look at us of, okay, when they look or they hear what's going on with the court system, and when we're in, okay, now you go through a divorce, even though, you guys loved each other, the night before. Now you're going through divorce, and he's a cheater. He smokes crack, and the next thing you know, she's nuts, and she's always been crazy, and she's bipolar, and blah 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 blah, all overnight. And that's why there's no validity to it from a public perspective, because we're being accused on either side of the equation a lot of the times, and downgraded so much by the other side on hearsay, on accusations that are not factual. And so it becomes a situation where the press doesn't know. I mean, do we take their side? Do we publicize their story, or are they a lunatic? They don't know. And I'm going to say, I'm going to say on this one, I would say probably 50% of the time, maybe 40% of the time, some of it's accurate and some of it's not. And that's unfortunate to say, but it's true.
And I would just add to what you're saying, getting back to one of the angles I like to look at is not so much the hearsay. And this is, if I was the major press networks, what I would focus on is not the drama and hearsay of these stories. I'd focus on what's behind that. What are the mechanisms that are behind that are dysfunctional? And the dysfunctional mechanisms, which have been said on this show many times, is you have a complete breakdown in due process. You have complete overt improprieties that play out in these systems, whether it's on these oversight committees, whether it's on the relationships between judges and lawyers, or in those states that permit judges to be elected. Look at the donors to those campaigns. It's very political. I mean, this is not a political issue when it impacts the family and kids, and all of us can be Democrats, but you got to look at the mechanisms and the hard evidence, and that is behind the dramas that play out in the courtroom. And it's a complete breakdown. And that's what I think the focus of the media should really be on, more so than the individual stories of drama and craziness that play out.
Absolutely. Exactly right. I think that when we focus on the individual stories, we become clouded in the drama and the hearsay, and we become almost like a Snoopy cartoon, like a blah 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 blah. Recently, my local TV station of WTSP News Channel 10, I believe, did a live feed interview with Danica Jones on, I believe that's her name, Danica Jones, on parental alienation. They got so much negative feedback on what's going on in our local courtrooms, meaning the Hillsborough, the Pasco, the Hernando, the ones in this area. They deleted the live video. I don't know if for whatever reason that occurred, but with overwhelming support, you could see in our local community that parental alienation is alive. It's living, it's breathing, it's encouraged by the courts, it's acknowledged now by the news channel, but nobody, I think, knows what to do with it. They received all this information, this feedback, these comments, but now what do? They kind of opened up a big hole where they, have a sense of responsibility, but don't know what to do with that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
that's correct.
I think that's where you have professionals that really need to come in that are trained in mental health, that should be kind of focused on that. And then you get, of course, with those issues and the mental health professionals, of course, there's the sticky issue of when a court appoints one of those. I mean, it's a mixed bag. So it's a very, it's such a difficult area to tackle in that sense. But I think, the solution is somewhere in removing, the limitless amount of money that can be spent in these cases, removing removing these judicial oversight committees that are made up of peers of the judges and lawyers. Give it back to, civilian oversight committees. I mean, they're, not that these ideas are perfect, and of course there are always flaws, but you have to do something to remove the profit incentive from a lot of what's going on, and I think you would see a lot of these drawn-out cases narrow down, when nobody can kind of flame the fires in these things. And I think the parental alienation one, that's, call it what you will. Some people attack it. The person who, came up with that term, they attack him and say he was this crazy lunatic. That's fine. He probably, from what I understand, he was. But that doesn't take away the accuracy of what's being described with what many of the kids are going through and parents are going through with the alienation. You can call it by a different name. But I think that it's certainly real and it certainly happens, sometimes worse than others. And it's unfortunate, but it certainly needs to be addressed. As does,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say you mentioned money too, and that's honestly the root of it all. The thing too is when you give a lot of these people this power, and they're more corruptible even. So, and the root of it all is money and the perversion of the system under the guise of in the best interest of the child. It's really deplorable. So. Absolutely, and I know I can hear Betsy's passion too. Is there something else you wanted to say, Jess, or add in?
Yeah. Now I was going to say, hold on here. I was just going to say, yeah, I was going to say the fact that you've got all of these towns, and I've listed off a bunch of them this week. You've got states, and they all adhere to these what they call parental alienation awareness days. Okay, well, if you've got all of these cities making these decrees, then how much of a bogus science is parental alienation actually, if everybody's buying into it? I understand the fact that it's not in the DSM-5. They may approach it as a narcissistic personality disorder or an inability to allow a active and loving relationship with the other parent, however they want to word it. But the issue really at hand is still the same. We have parents out there who are awarded custody, who are not allowing the other parent to be in that child's life actively and lovingly. And that's wrong. We need parents who are supporting that active and loving relationship at all costs. What are some of the things that you look for in deciding these stories? Because they're not some of the things that you're talking about. You really break down. I mean, you break it way down to make it simple to people.
Well,
so what are the things that you look for?
Yeah, you're an emotional writer, Mr. Krasner. Definitely, you can definitely feel it.
And I think if you're going to get people to pay attention to this subject matter, you can do it in one of two ways. You can do it in a way where it's all legalese language, and it's that targets a certain crowd. But if you want to kind of provoke the national conscience on making them aware of a lot of these issues, you have to strike a balance between emotional and factual, investigative, and just reporting what's out there. And I don't intentionally set out to do that, but I think you just have to find your voice and be able to explain things in a way that is going to resonate and is going to be understood. I think in some of my earlier writings, it was more of me trying to convey, I think, my personal experience with certain situations through the experiences of others, because I didn't want to focus on my own situation, because that becomes almost a bit self-serving after a while. But if there was a way to do it, because so many people had experienced the same thing, So you could write about it and have the passion to write about it and express the emotion of what it does to somebody and also portray that through the experiences of others. That's kind of, the tact I took on it. But it's the most disturbing thing I found in all this is how common this stuff is and the mechanisms in place to shield the information that would provide the backup data, if you will, that would prove a lot of what people are saying. Think about it. I mean, you have these family courts, and they're very guarded. They're very shielded. And I've always, I like to look at the motion practice a lot, and I like to look at the files because you're only as good as what you can prove. And a lot of this data is just boarded up. I mean, it depends what type of court it is, what state it is. But, if you're trying to get into the records of a family court, they claim confidentiality of this and that. But it's not even that you need to get all the details. You need to see what attorneys are regularly filing with the family courts. For example, if you have 10 attorneys all practicing the same number of cases in the same jurisdiction out of the same family court, and 3 of those attorneys are disproportionately filing temporary protective orders in their cases and doing the same patterns again and again and again, I got to tell you, that's a big red flag right there, especially if you can correlate that with specific judges in those courthouses. And the information you would need to prove that is all there, but it is guarded because it is a family court system and you can't access it. I started, compiling data in those courts that you can access those data, and it was showing exactly that there is a direct correlation with a lot of that. Then you add the element of campaign donations, and it becomes something completely different entirely.
Absolutely.
But people don't think to cross the streams of a lot of these numbers, and you almost have to think creatively. Well, how do you get the data? How do you, what are you looking for exactly? Think like someone who's investigating it would. But most people are intimidated to go up against these types of judges for fear of retaliation, for fear that if they stir the pot too much, it could be their family at risk. And I think when people, you got to get to a point where all 3 of you have, where you put your foot down and say enough. I'm not going to be intimidated. These guys are just normal, everyday people dressed up in robes, and a lot of times going on a power trip.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it in the nail on the head, Mr. Grouser. That's exactly what it is. I'm sorry, Jesse, I'm going to be brief. I know that's hard to believe. But it really is sometimes on a very human level about emasculating, judges emasculating men and making women. It really is sometimes very small little people wearing robes that if you tore that robe off, you'd see they were naked underneath it.
Yep. So I do think to some level of awareness, Jay, I do think that some things are, coming to light. The DSM-5 talks about, child psychological abuse and how it's not, it's not physical abuse and it's not sexual abuse, but that it's all based on the psychological act. So I do believe that our psychologists are moving towards implementing a strict criteria as far as, when the DSM-6 comes out. So I do believe a level of awareness is growing. As far as judicial accountability, Steve, let me share with you, in the 6th Judicial courthouse, I actually petitioned for the last year of family court rulings, time-sharing schedules, time-sharing plans, and requests for equal time-sharing and denial of that. And I was told that they could not release that information because they could not have it. That was what the motion was actually founded, what the judge, Laura Lee Weston, responded with, that she didn't have access to that information. So I have actually started my own judicial maybe research, I guess, for lack of better terms, where I am researching every case that she has presided over since she's taken bench on December 6th of 2016. And I'm going to start to categorize each case, time-sharing requests, DVIs, sheltering attorney, time-sharing schedule, and I'm going to show that correlation so that when she is up for re-election and I can show that she is not an unbiased party, because I believe that this is the way that we get our judges to not be reelected and to expose them for their relationships and their interaction and their judicial hypocrisy with attorneys, and that's how we shut them down.
And I think, in family courts, I always find it humorous that we elect judges to these types of courts to begin with. And I have some experience in politics. I've run for office before. And I've got to tell you, a large swath of people that do run for office, you do have a bit of an ego. You do, when you're in the process of running for office and campaigning and have the spotlight on you, that can get to your head. Think about that kind of a person being elected to a position that decides the fate of kids. I mean, these guys have no specific training. They're lawyers. They're family lawyers by nature most of the time.
Right.
So you're electing a family lawyer who's probably been caught up in these ethical quagmires, if you will. You're electing them to the bench to then try to administer justice and a rule of law over proceedings that don't even follow what's on the books.
Right, and I'll say, I've said human nature is what it is. I've said to my wife many times, it honestly, and you can, you're smart enough, and people out there listening are as well. It takes a certain type of personality and an ego to even run for a position like that. And as you said, when you actually attain that, it's kind of actualization in your own mind sometimes. In my opinion, it takes a really good advisor to really keep you contained. It's out of your head in many ways, especially, again, when your own nature drives you to do something like that. There's a need for it. And when you start taking more and more, quote-unquote, success, and the more people tell you how great you are, if you're not grounded, you'll start to believe it. And the more power and status you obtain, the more people do that. So it does with these judges, too, this perceived ultimate unwavering power that they have. So, yeah, absolutely, Jeff.
And Bud, you hit on a really good point. Think about these judges and think about what they're seeing all day with lawyers coming before them who all want to have continued business in their courtrooms and get good rulings. And, they're groveling to these judges on a daily basis. They're kissing their butts. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, and I've watched it play out. I watched it, in Orange County, New York, where I'm at. I saw it with several judges. You see it in the hallways, too, when you listen in on conversations with lawyers and other clients. It's funny because, most people I remember sitting in the hallways, and I knew and could recognize a lot of the attorneys walking around and talking to their clients. And the way that they grease these situations, I almost half wanted to pull a lot of these folks aside and said, your own lawyer over there is not having your best interest in mind. And that's usually what plays out in a lot of these situations. Now, that being said, I've met some very ethical people, ethical judges, ethical lawyers in family law that, really try to do the right thing. But I think when the whole entire infrastructure is plagued by so many dysfunctional areas, it's hard for them to do that. And the lack of resources in reviewing cases, in reviewing evidence, reviewing motions in their entirety, it really kind of hurts the entire process and corrupts it on an infrastructural level.
Mm-hmm. What's really interesting that I don't think I've actually shared on this show or anything before is so the judge in my husband's case took bench in December. I think it was like December 6, 2016, something like that. And in February, we motioned for her to present to us all of the training material and all of the orientation material that she received prior to taking her position that she was appointed to by our Florida Governor, Rick Scott. By the way, she also happens to be the Pinellas County Sheriff's wife. But we petitioned for all of the training and the orientation material that she received in order to guide her in determining the best interest of child statute, whatever guidelines, because she was a former prosecutor. She also did not have access to that information in order to present it to us. So I think there's a huge lack of judicial accountability in determining if these judges are even qualified to determine the best interests of our children.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think that's why they dole it out. Usually you'll hear them, a lot of these judges, defer folks to third parties, custody evaluators, which are a nightmare to some, but if they're doing their job correctly, and I'll say this very carefully, without getting into the issue of if it's ethically right of any judge to force parents to pay for these services or go to custody evaluators, that's a different issue. But if you're in the system and you have to play that way by those rules, some of them are good and do very thorough jobs and are accurate, and some of them are not so good and want continued business. And that's when you get into a lot of trouble. This industry attracts, a lot of folks that are, the worst stereotypes of the legal industry. And I've seen it, and that's what makes you respect the ones that are good. You mentioned Connie earlier. She's one of those that has a lot of integrity and ethics, in the law. And you don't always see that a lot in this industry. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you one thing right before we get ready to let you go. Obviously, we've just flown by with time, but through all of the things that you've done and the writings that you've done and put out there, has there ever been a judge try to place a gag order on you?
No, and I certainly would know how to counter that if they did.
That's good.
I was kind of humorously asked that one time.
Absolutely.
Said, no, but I would love for some of the judges in my ordeal to try that one with me. But all kidding aside, no, there's no grounds for that. And the way that I write a lot of these articles, if I am using myself as an example or anything I've seen firsthand, I don't. You'll never see me use names to a large degree. Right. And I'm certainly very aware of what is permissible and not permissible in these types of cases to put out there to the public. That being said, a little footnote on that is remember, especially with the elected judges, a lot of folks are intimidated by these people and speaking out against them. Let's be very clear. They're elected officials, which means their ability to retaliate against you and sue you for defamation of character or anything like that for speaking out against them, even if you are a party before their court, is very small. So anytime you hear that kind of talk or intimidation, they can't do it. As long as you're telling the truth, it's an almost impossible case for any kind of defamation against you to happen. But they don't really have this problem because they hold the balance of your case in their hands a lot of the times, and that can be very intimidating to a lot of people.
They play on your fear without question. They definitely play on your fear.
Yeah. Well, we've reached the end point here of the interview, obviously, because we've run out of time. It seems like we always do. But thank you so much, sir, for coming on. Steve Krasner, catch the Huff Post because he's got some great articles out there. Phenomenal stuff. So thank you so much. And I know my brother and sister here, Bud Dino and Jesse Weiner would love to say thank you as well.
Yeah, quickly, Stephen, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. Jess?
Yes, thank you so much. You're just encouraging, and your demeanor and your delivery and speech pattern, I'm almost mesmerized by it, and I probably don't say that often. So thank you so much. Thank you very much.
So you're very welcome.
Awesome.
And thanks for having me on, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank
you. You as well. Awesome. Steve Krasner out there. I want to definitely thank him for coming on. Awesome stuff so far. Amazing. So definitely we're reaching the end of the show, but our dreaded
depressing point. Jay, for the people that don't know, the last 10 minutes, Jay and I, we coined it very early on, the depressing part, because we get forward to it. We have so much fun, and it's great having people on. And I'll quickly go into my shout-outs, Jay, if you don't mind, unless you were going to do something before that. I know we're limited on time here, and that's a good problem to have because we had some amazing guests. Quickly, shout outs to Jesse Weiner, Jay Moss, of course, Far From Normal, my cohorts, love you both. Ted Fogg, Brenda Johnson, Pete McNeil, and also I want to give a shout out to Kirk Pendergrass over at Kirk's Law Corner. Catch his show, amazingly smart, interactive man. And Charlie Stecker, our trusted advisor. We love you, Mr. Stecker. Everybody out there, my lovely wife, give a shout out to friends out there quickly. Lenore Arango, which was by on Facebook. Love Lenore. Instagram heavy too. Love Lenore. Tina Dixon out there. Love you, Tina. Anyone I missed. And obviously, like I said, my wife, my littlest bestest buddy, Mason. And I got a phone call 8 minutes before the show from my biggest bestest buddy, Carter. And I couldn't be happier. That made my night. So for the people out there know, and people behind the scenes know, I was longing for that call. So I'm with you guys out there. Keep fighting. Keep your chins up. We love you, and Jay, his exit is beautiful. Jesse.
Awesome, and that's the sounder here. So Jesse Weiner.
So I was reflecting on with my nephew when he asked me why I did the show, and I said, it's just something I got involved with. And I remember each and every time I do this show that it's to give a voice to the parents out there who just give up. So keep fighting. Like, this is a battle. This is a war. We are here to help you. We love you. We are here to fight with you every step of the way. We are here to hear you cry, to scream. It doesn't matter. Continue the fight because your children need you. And that's it. And to Bud and Jay, I just love you guys.
Love you too. And I'll quickly say, I just want to say before you get rolling, Jay, that people out there, and I know that Jesse and Jay get overwhelmed, and a lot of people do out there with private emails, and I do too, and that's not a bad thing. What I'm saying is people out there that I haven't gotten to yet, don't think that you're not important or you're being ignored. It's just we try feverishly, and it seems like more and more every day, which means we've got to keep fighting this problem, but never think that you're being ignored. And I'll concur with Jesse. You are important. You are loved. And Jay goes in that area toward the end of the show, so you'll hear that again.
Absolutely. I want to definitely give a big shout out to Natasha Pavlovich. She was an amazing guest in our first hour. Definitely to Steve Krasner. Amazing again in our second hour. I mean, we've been so lucky and so blessed to have some of the greatest guests be able to come on every week. And someone asked us once, I don't know what you're doing to get the guests that you get on, and we just ask.
Well, I can tell you exactly what it is. I say it a lot. People are drawn to positive, genuine people. And people, the word gets out when you treat people well and they feel comfortable and have fun coming on and feel like they have a voice. That gets around. Bad word of mouth is one thing, good is another. And that's what it is. We do things genuinely from our hearts, and we treat people like human beings, like they matter, because they do. That's the ticket, folks. It's not alienating people and going tit for tat. It's treating people with dignity and respect, which we all deserve. There's the secret. Love, folks. No secrets.
Yep. And that's exactly what we said, Bud. The secret is there is no secret.
Exactly. Jay and I say it all the time.
Yeah, so we want to definitely thank those people for coming on, and they were just amazing tonight. Natasha, Steve, they were just amazing stuff. We want to thank the Future of Our Children's Radio Network and all of those who have come before us, the Randy Davis, the Neil Sheltons, the Brian Kenters, Kirk Pendergrass, obviously, the Yaya McLeans, those people who have paved the path and made it possible for us to do what we do. Also, our video producer, Ted Fogg, for allowing us to get this out there, out to Facebook Live, because obviously it's a great medium. Night. Yeah, it's been a tough night for him, but he's done amazing work.
Last day, he's done amazing.
And you're going to see some of the more amazing work he's going to do coming up very soon. Can we quickly have time to quickly just talk about our show next week, Jay? Because yes, absolutely. I want to get right into that real quick. Make sure to tune in next week for our Halloween Friday the 13th edition of the Far From Normal radio show, and I'm going to let you announce who those two guests are.
Woo! It's exciting for me. Okay, the first guest we're going to have on is Mr. Larry Zerner, who played the beloved Shelley in 1982's Friday the 13th, Part 3. And if people don't know, the infamous and very famous hockey mask that Jason obtains is from Shelley, a.k.a. Larry Zerner from Friday the 13th, Part 3. So he's iconic. It's iconic. We're going to have Mr. Zerner here to talk about the history of the movie and what he's up to now. And also Miss Deborah Voorhees, which ironically and beautifully has no relation to the actual character Jason Voorhees except that beautiful name, which the affiliation is just awesome to me. Miss Voorhees was Tina in Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, directed by Danny Scheinman and the late, great Danny Scheinman, rest in peace. It's going to be awesome. She's done a lot of things since then, as has Mr. Zerner. Debbie is still very active in the community of film and interacts with her fans greatly. I know she does conventions, I believe, as does Mr. Zerner. We're going to get into it all. It's very beautiful for me, and I know for a lot of people it's going to be very entertaining. We're going to have a fun time, Jay, a very fun time.
Yeah. We are going to have a Friday the 13th edition, Halloween edition of the Far From Normal radio show next week. People, it is going to be a spooky, spooky time, and we're going to have a great, great time with it because we only get this opportunity, once a year. So you might as well celebrate. Yeah.
Right, and you know what I tell people too, I real quick, Jay, I know we're deviating a little bit, and you know what, Jay and I discussed this too, and we wanted to have a little fun, and for us and for other people too, kind of change a little direction for 1 week and give people a little bit of a break and have a little bit of fun. It's okay to smile, guys. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to reminisce and just have a little bit of fun because we all need that, and that's what it's going to be about, Jay.
It's exactly. That's what makes our show the Far From Normal radio show. So, guys, as always, you are important. You are loved. You are cared about. Now, this is a disclaimer, first off, for our ending song. So I just want to play this for you. And ending song tonight by Scott Strapp, Slow Suicide.
No matter what problems you're dealing with, we want to help you find a reason to keep living. Please dial 1-800-273-TALK. Also, for alcohol abuse or substance abuse, please dial 1-800-662-HELP. Thank you.